Hey everybody, welcome to my weekly video diary on everything that's going on with this transition. If you'll recall, last week I promised that once a week I would get on here and kind of talk about some of the questions that have been coming in about what I'm going through, and also to just, yeah, kind of give you guys the lowdown on what this process is like. I obviously came out fully as being trans last week. So, yeah, so what's the first week been like? Obviously, it's been a weird week given the COVID 19 outbreak. We've been working from home basically all week. Myself, Sarah, and Rob all working from home at the moment. And I mean, that's fine. It's one of those things. Just find ways to keep your own private workspaces. Fortunately, before this all broke out, we had just gotten the back room all finally fixed up. So she's working from the back office, I'm working from the studio, and Robbie's working from downstairs. So we've got kind of our own spaces. But yeah, let's just dive into what we're going through today. So today would mark day number 8 on hormones. Um, no physical changes that I've noticed yet. Definitely a slight decrease in sex drive. Definitely have noticed that. I have to pee all the time. That's for sure a difference. And I'm dreaming way more vividly than I used to. Some people have told me that they experienced the same thing when they started hormones. Some people said no, not really. And I mean, I assume it's all very personal, all very, you know, it's different for everybody. But yeah, as someone who does not typically remember their dreams at all, or like remember that they dreamed at all, I'm dreaming extremely vividly every night, which is interesting. Um, but I think the biggest change for me has just been mentally how much better I feel, how much healthier I feel. For the longest time, I maintained a masculine and a feminine persona. And for some people, I presented as Joe, and as some people, I presented as Callie, and I would always have to keep track of who was who. And this is way better. you know, just that everyone's on the same page and everyone's going by the name that I prefer. The response has been unbelievable. Almost no one has had a problem. No one has said anything even remotely disparaging, which has been incredible. No one in my family, anyway. I mean, there's always going to be the trolls, but no one whose opinion I care about in the slightest has said anything. We'll put it that way. Um, but yeah, I think that's been the biggest thing that I've just noticed in the first week has just been how much better I feel as a person. The amount of times that I've smiled this week is insane for me. I don't smile a ton. I'm very stoic most of the time, and I'm just been grinning like an idiot for most of this week. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've really noticed so far. Um, you know, I do have some questions that I'm going to go through here in a little bit from people who have responded. I know I said there'd be a link to click on last video. COVID 19 has dramatically impacted the way we do things at work. So everything is running a little bit behind. So I just decided, you know what, we'll just do the link for the video so that you guys can ask questions with this one. So I think that post should be going up the same day that this comes out. Ideally, the post will go up before this comes out. I think that's going to be the case. I'll let you know. Well, you'll see. You'll probably know by the time you're watching this video. So yeah, like I say, I'm imagining my first month or two of this is going to be a lot of just mental differences. There's not going to be a ton of physical change, I don't think, for a while. Usually they say it's a couple months before you really start seeing the changes. Specifically, they said I'll notice the changes after 2 months, which I'm assuming probably means the changes that I'm noticing I can't show on camera or just aren't, they're the things that I'll notice when I'm like looking in the mirror really closely. So for the first couple months, probably gonna be a lot of mental things, but I'm curious to see where this is at, in 6 months when I'm getting close to the wedding and I'm sitting here trying to figure out what the hell I'm gonna wear or having to go get fitted way late because my sizes have changed. That's gonna be interesting for sure. Right now, it's just kind of adapting. My work has been extraordinarily supportive of the change. I got to talk to HR a little bit about the change earlier this week, and they were incredibly supportive. Letting me know the company had my back, and you know, uh, any kind of discrimination is not going to be tolerated. And yeah, it's super incredible the response. And I wish I could show it to you. I'm not going to show people's private emails, but I made an announcement email last week and just um, to the whole station, just saying, hey, this is who I am. This is, I'm starting to go by the name I prefer and the pronouns I prefer. And, if you have any questions, please ask me. I'm super into it. And if you could see the response chain that came on that email of the 30 or so responses that I got of people who were just super supportive and super into it, it was really, really heartwarming. It really made me feel pretty good. So that was awesome. I'm gonna dive in and answer some of the questions that I got this week. I haven't even looked at them yet, so sorry about that. Okay, so as I'm looking through these, I got 3 here that I'm gonna answer today. One of them has a name left. The other 2 are anonymous. So let's see. First question from Monica. I thought you were gender fluid. Are you no longer going by that? Okay, so that's a good one to start. I think I answered it in last week's video. I might not have. I'm not sure. If I didn't, I'm sorry. So yeah, when I first came out, I was 24 years old, and I said bigendered at the time. I think was the term that I used. It was when I read through kind of what it meant to be bigendered. That was the one that most closely represented where I was at that time. So that's what I went with. It was the one that made sense to me. And as I got out of the closet and I became more open and more willing to explore myself and my gender, gender fluidity fit better. Like it was no longer was it just, I like on the 2 ends of the spectrum. It was all over the place and all points in between. And so I mean, for the last 4 years, I've gone by gender fluid, because that's what made sense. And part of it, when I first came out, when I started calling myself gender fluid, I should say, it was recommended to me by my therapist, like, that I should explore hormones. Not saying, they weren't saying you have to do this, but they were saying, it is what I would recommend for you, is to explore hormone therapy. And I wasn't in a place where I wanted to do that. I didn't feel comfortable with the home situation, with the work situation, none of that. So I wasn't willing to do that. And in my mind, I didn't want to say that I was trans, I think, at the time. I either didn't accept that or I didn't feel it. I can't really put myself back quite into that mental state to say why I didn't. But as time passed and I became more aware that I wanted to transition, it started occurring to me that, okay, I'm actually trans. I am transgender. I am female. So, yeah. So, I mean, let it be a lesson. It's just like declaring your major at college. Don't do it when you first get to college. Don't rush to label yourself ever. Take the time and explore who you are. Because the answer's there, and sometimes it's not everyone else you have to convince, it's yourself you have to convince. So take the time and just be you. Okay, second question. I'm thinking about starting hormones, but don't know what the process is like. What do? That one's from Anonymous. So Anonymous, I will say talk to a therapist is starting point 1. Most times you can Google LGBT therapist and find a therapist that is used to working with people with gender dysphoria or is used to working with LGBT folks. Talk to a therapist and see and be honest. Let them know, hey, I'm thinking about doing hormones. What is that process like? And they can walk you through it better than I can. I'll give you the limited knowledge that I've had with it, because this is how I started. Is I asked my therapist about it, and I went to find that Michigan is what's called an informed consent state. Not every state is. You'll have to look up what specifically it is for your state, wherever you live. But in Michigan, you basically don't need a doctor or a therapist permission. I'm sorry, you don't need a therapist permission to begin hormone therapy. You have to give informed consent, which basically, in my case, meant they handed me 3 pieces of paper that had 40 different statements that I had to initial and say, I understand the risks. I understand what I'm asking to have happen to myself. I understand what it might do to me, what it won't do to me. And that basically give informed consent to the doctor that, yes, I want to do this. I also had to go for a consultation with the doctor who walked me through what the process is like, what hormones I would be put on, what the timeline for it would look like, how I wanted to take them. You know, do I want to do the injections? Do I want to do the patches? Do I want to take it orally? For a note, if I didn't mention it last week, I do 1 spirulactone orally, and I do 2 estradiol down in my gum line. So swallow the spirulactone, then the estradiol, like it goes down in your gum line, and you just kind of let it dissolve there, and it gets to your bloodstream better than if it doesn't have to go through your liver or something like that. I don't really, I don't want to say I don't understand it. I do get the concept, but it's not important. Like it's you have different ways that you can take the hormones is what I'm trying to get at. So, the process is fairly straightforward. After that, you just take your pills, take your medicine every day, and you start the transition process. I don't know how old you are. If you're younger, it is better. The younger you are, the better the effects will be. If you're pre-pubescent, it's the best effects. Like you can literally avoid puberty, which is great. I mean, you'll just go through the opposite gender or the opposite sex's puberty instead, which is what you're aiming for. So that's a good move. But I mean, I'm 30 and it's still well worthwhile for me to go through as well. So I don't know exactly what age you're at or where you're at, but I would talk to a therapist and then talk to a doctor. All right. And the third one, I knew this one was coming eventually. What was telling your parents like? And that's also from Anonymous. So let's get into that. Hard. It was really hard to tell my parents. I have great parents. I have 2 of the most wonderful parents in the world. And what I learned is it doesn't matter how great your parents are. It's hard to tell them because most people in your life, at the end of the day, if they had a problem with it, you'd tell them to piss off and you'd go find new friends or, even certain members of family, you'd just cut them out of your life and you'd move on. But you can't do that with your folks. It's tough. Well, I mean, you can, but it's hard. At the end of the day, every child to some extent cares what their parents think. And there's no one that you want more to be like super on board and okay with it. I totally understand why people would struggle with telling their parents. It was very hard for me. They were some of the last people I told, which made me feel really bad because the last thing I wanted was them to find out from someone else. And that's actually why I told them, because I didn't want them to find out from somebody else. I wanted them to find out from me. So yeah, telling my parents was tough. Told my mom first. Both when I came out at 24 as bigendered and when I decided I was going to transition. I told my mom first. When I was 24, I told my dad second, and he was very supportive. Let me put it this way. They don't understand it. They don't really get it, and but they're also good enough that even though they don't get it, they're supportive. You know what I mean? It's very much, hey, if that's what's right for you, you do you, and we'll try to keep up. And that's where they're at. And it's all I can ask from them. I cannot expect them to be well educated on the subject. They grew up in the 50s and 60s. Like they didn't have a whole lot of examples of this to go by. And even people growing up today, like, how well known was the transgender politics of the 90s, the 2000s? Like, it wasn't until the 2000s, I feel like, that it's really started to be open and public about it. So I think they're doing as well as they can do. And I think the question that you're actually trying to ask isn't so much what was telling your parents like, but I think you're probably trying to get at, should you tell your parents? And I don't have a great answer for you on that one. You know the answer to that. If your parents are not going to be supportive and you're still living at home, then maybe now is not the time. And I'm not telling you to live a lie, but be smart. I would have a hard time going back in the closet now that I'm out. But remembering what it was like when I was in the closet, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, but you can live with it being in the bottle. So if that's right for you and you need to wait until you're in a better place and you need to wait until you can be out on your own, do that. It doesn't make you less of a trans individual. It doesn't make you, or any LGBT thing, it doesn't make you less gay to be in the closet. It doesn't make you less lesbian to be in the closet or bisexual or any of that. You got to do what's right for you. And if you think that your parents are going to be supportive or you need to tell them, then do it. But if you're not there yet, you don't have to, it's not a race. You don't have to be there now. You can, if you get there in a year or 2 years, it's, it's still, you're still being you. As long as in your heart, you're being yourself, you're doing right by yourself. So while I absolutely recommend being who you are to the world, if you have that luxury, I would just say be smart and know your situation. All right. So those are my 3 questions that I'm going to take this week. If I have a week where I get bombarded with a ton of them, I'll answer more than 3. Right now, I had 5 in there, and I'll probably get the other 2 next week. But if you guys have questions, and you can get as personal as you like. I promised I was going to be an open book on this, and I will. I will answer questions as honestly as I can. Don't be afraid to get personal if it helps you. I mean, don't get personal just to be a jerk. But if it's a question that, would lend you some context or be helpful to you, ask away. Guys, until next time, see you on the next one.